thank you for coming and joining us tonight. I am so excited. I have a good friend and a very interesting person that's going to be with us in our podcast tonight. And her name is Rhonda Madison. Welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
And so we're just going to have some variety of questions.
Okay.
And so we want to do, first one, I know this is kind of like, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Rhonda Madison, and I teach special education to middle school and high school students.
Both?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it's a busy job.
Mm-hmm.
Done that for several years, and I still love it.
Great.
And, yeah.
Now, we're currently in Oklahoma right now,
Yes.
but are you born and raised in Oklahoma?
I was born in Colorado,
Oh.
but moved to Oklahoma when I was 1 year old, and have been here ever since.
So you're essentially
I am.
an Okie.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, now, I know that you currently live in a little bit smaller town,
Yes.
and have you lived in bigger towns?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you like better? Smaller towns? Larger towns? And why?
Well, I have appreciation for both of them. I probably would choose a little bit bigger town than what I'm currently living in.
Mm-hmm.
It's very small,
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of miss access to bigger grocery stores,
Oh, I see.
fun things to go do.
Mm-hmm.
But there's good things in small town. It's very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
People are very friendly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you had a preference, larger town, smaller town?
I would probably have to go with the bigger town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm living in a smaller town right now, and all I do is think about Walmart.
Yeah.
I want a Walmart. But
Yes.
anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of outside of Oklahoma,
Yes.
you've lived in Colorado.
Yes.
Any other state you've lived in?
No.
Have you lived in any other country besides the United States?
I did live in Uganda for a year.
Uganda?
Uganda.
Like in Africa?
Like in Africa.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, how was that? What drew you to Uganda in the first place?
There has always been a missionary inside of me,
Mm-hmm.
and an opportunity came in 2017, and they were building a secondary school, and they needed English teachers.
Oh, okay.
And so I made the connection, and the doors just opened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what an experience.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Uganda's a little bit different than Oklahoma.
Just a little.
What kind of cultural differences did you really notice right off the bat?
Well, being Uganda, it is a third world country, so very much poverty, very poor. Yeah. And so, yes, they were very happy, though, with the very basic things of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Wow.
not like America where we
Mm-hmm.
try to gain wealth. And
They just try to survive?
yes, pretty much.
Wow.
From day to day.
And this school, what was this school all about? What was-
There was a ministry there, the Amaziban ministry, and they had ministered to these children for several years. And it was time for these children to go to a secondary school.
Mm.
And most of the schools were very far away from their families.
Mhm.
And so they wanted to have a school closer to their families
Oh,
that they
wow.
could go to, that they could attend. It's a boarding school,
Okay.
but they still wanted it to be closer to the families. So.
And what subjects did you teach?
English.
Oh, you taught English.
Mhm.
Well, how did you approach teaching English? I mean, did you have a curriculum? Did you just kind of develop your own? How did you do that?
Kind of developed our own. I worked with a Ugandan English teacher. We
Oh,
kind of did a
okay.
dance together in the
Okay.
classroom. And so I would just use different materials and kind of patch it together.
Mhm.
We just started off with just the basics of English, the different, what's it called?
Parts?
Parts of speech. I was really a good English
Yes, you
teacher. Parts of speech, noun, verbs,
Mhm.
adjectives,
All
things
those
like
things.
that. Just broke those down. And just had a lot of fun with the
Did you have a lot of conversation or
Yes.
role plays, situational things like that?
Yes, and speaking of conversation, because it was a boarding school, we were there on campus with the kids, and they were only allowed to speak English.
Oh,
Yeah, and so we would see kids during mealtime, just on campus at ball games, and so there was always conversation and
okay.
English going on.
So
Yeah.
were you able to see improvement in the students
most
as far as
definitely.
their pronunciation and all that?
And what was so helpful is that they were so excited to learn it. They had a basic knowledge of English, but they were just so motivated to
Really?
learn the language, which helps.
Well, that'll help them in the future, huh?
Yeah.
Now,
very much.
going back to the cultural things, what were some of the cultural differences? Yes, there was poverty. Yes, they kind of in a survival mode. But what would you, could you define anything culturally that really stood out in your memory about the Ugandan culture?
Well, like I said, the people were just so kind and loving and welcoming. They just had a sense of contentment, even in the midst of the poverty.
Right.
Yeah, and they just, this was just their way of life, and they seemed to accept it, and so.
So it kind of made you be a little bit more joyful, even though the things were kind of tough.
Yeah, right,
Wow.
right.
And how did you get around? Did you have a car?
No, I did not have a car. It was really fun. We rode bodas, little motorcycles that were just zipping around everywhere, and it was very cheap transportation, and you just hop on and tell them where you want to go, and it was really fun to ride on the back of a boda to
Did
your
you have a helmet?
destination. No helmet. No. And there's not really a whole lot of traffic laws either. So.
No, so it's just like hang on and pray, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that's good. Now, did the kids enjoy learning English?
They loved it. They loved
fun.
it. Yes, very much.
Okay.
They would ask great questions. They wanted to understand the language really well.
Did you find that any of the students were fearful about speaking? Were there any? And how'd you get over that? How'd you help the students to not be so afraid to speak?
I think just keeping a sense of humor with the kids. When they would ask questions, really answer their questions well. If you didn't know why we particularly spoke a certain way, the reasons behind all the English language, why we say words the way we say them,
Do
and
you
do the
know
research.
the answers to those questions?
I didn't know. I was learning along with them in some ways, and just showing them that we respected their questions and understood, and just made the atmosphere welcoming for them to try, even if they make mistakes.
And then laugh.
And then laugh if there was a mistake made. Yeah.
Yeah. In Brazil, they laugh at my Portuguese all the time.
I'm sure.
All the time. Now, what kind of resources do they have to practice? Like, for example, do they watch TV? Do they listen to music? How do they practice their listening skills as far as being able to understand and comprehend English?
TV is not really accessible to these kids. They did know about movies, but as far as a TV in the home, they don't really have that. Right.
Okay.
So they did speak English as children in the elementary schools. They spoke English.
Well, good.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, let me shift a little bit from your Ugandan experience. Now, I know personally, because I've known you for many years, that you're a godly woman, and I hear, as well as I have read, that you are writing a devotional.
I am.
How did that come about? How did you get inspired to do that?
Well, the inspiration came after a few years of really a difficult time in my personal life, just a really emotional and spiritual downtime. And so I had some choices to make, and whether I was just going to go my own path and try to avoid the pain or just walk with God and go through the pain. And, by God's grace, I chose walking with Him through the pain and learned so much about myself and about the character of God. And so now that I'm getting on the other side of that, I just want to encourage others who might be going through difficult times.
Now, what's the name of it?
It's called Paths with a Purpose.
Wow, where'd you get that name? That's a great
name. I
name.
have to say it came straight from God.
Yeah.
And when I first heard that phrase, when it came to my mind, I didn't understand what that was about. I was like, where did that come from? And I now see that it's supposed to be for this devotional.
Wow, it's a very, very strong word. Path and purpose. That's very, very good. So what is the message? What is the theme of these devotionals?
I would say my motivation is to encourage people who read them, who hopefully I'm reaching those that are in a difficult place. And that I just want to encourage them to stay on the path, no matter how difficult. I want them to give themselves grace, know that God's giving them grace, and that there is purpose behind the pain.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And who is your particular audience? Is this for young people, children? Is this for older people? What?
Yeah, probably, even teenagers, young adults, to however old.
To whoever old.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, one of the things that I would love to know is, and this could be through your devotional that you're writing, or maybe a passage or another devotional that's been particularly inspiring to you. What would that be, do you think?
I think, back to what I said about God having a purpose in the pain, I think the scriptures that talk about, in is it Jeremiah 29:11, yes, that He has good plans and purposes for us. And if we really believe that, that can really give us the strength that we need to go through those hard times. So that's a really important passage for me to know, okay, God says He has a plan and a purpose for His children. So no matter how difficult, there's a reason. And also the promise that He is for us. He's not against us. So when bad things happen, it's not that God's against us or we've done something wrong. We live in a fallen world, but God's grace is going to see us through, and that there's reasons, and we're just going to be better people for it.
Kind of flies in the face. That's an interesting phrase, but it's a statement that sometimes people don't understand, is that pain is not necessarily bad.
Right.
When you're working out in a gym, you're going to hurt, but eventually you're going to go stronger.
Right, exactly.
Do you think that's true?
I think that's a great analogy.
I see. Well, how has your personal faith in Jesus affected your daily life as you go through your teaching and your life? How has it influenced you?
Well, my faith is pretty much everything to me, because with my job, that's a lot of time to spend in one place, and I want it to be productive time. I want it to be purposeful. So I do really feel called to teach children with learning disabilities, and so I can't do that without God's help, with the patience and the energy that takes day in and day out. So I rely on Him a lot, and I rely on Him in my relationships with people, my relationships, with my children. So just how to live this life according to His ways, and not my own.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, you've had certainly a diverse life experience.
Yes.
Philippines and Uganda, and then you're coming to teach, and you're teaching in a small town, and you're teaching dual ages, age groups. But certainly God has been faithful to you, hasn't He? And I know that, this kind of interview, you really don't know what I'm going to ask.
That's right.
That could be really fun, But
or not.
Yeah, I know. But you've been teaching a long time.
Yes.
And has teaching been a joy for you?
Very much so.
Yeah. And your students are great. You can have a lot of fun. Do you laugh during the day?
I laugh a lot during the day.
What do you laugh at?
Well, sometimes I have students who do struggle with their emotions. So I have a lot of different experiences with angry students, students who are frustrated. And so I enjoy trying to make them laugh or helping them find humor in the situation, just to bring their emotions down and to calm them. Yeah.
So laughter is a good thing.
Very much. Yeah.
If you could say anything to our audience about maybe where they are today, what would you say? What would you encourage them with?
To laugh.
Laugh a lot.
On my desk in my class, I have a thing that says laugh. And so it reminds me every day. But yes, to enjoy life and to really make sure that your days are productive, and that you are fulfilling your God-given purposes. Because I think we're all given strengths and giftings that He wants us to use, and when we're doing that, I think the joy comes.
Well, thank you for spending some moments with us.
Yes, thank you.
Sharing a little bit, and we hope that you've been encouraged and that you will be challenged to have a faith in Jesus Christ, because He can be your rock. So, until next time, this is Lisa and this is Rhonda, and we hope you have a good day.